Shadows twist where whispers grow. The edge of light begins to flow. A world unseen through fractured glass, where futures meet the echoes past. Step closer now, the veil is thin. A riddle starts where dreams begin. The experimental medium calls your name. Nothing here will be the same.
Welcome to the Experimental Medium Podcast. Today we're diving into a really fascinating piece of history. We're looking at the whole exploration and reported practice of physical mediumship. And our goal here really is to unpack this pile of quite intriguing old books. We're talking sources published between, let's see, 1874 and 1915, so quite a specific period. And these aren't, modern critiques or analyses. They offer this direct window almost into how physical mediumship was understood back then, how some people thought it could be developed even, and the kinds of things they were actually documenting and discussing within that whole spiritualist movement.
Exactly. And the sources themselves, just their titles are like little time capsules, aren't they? They signal some really distinct viewpoints. We've got authors like George Winslow Plummer, Abby A. Judson, W.H. Back, N.B. Wolfe, too. Oh, and a text edited by Emma Hart and Britton, who was, a big name in spiritualism. And the titles, they tell you a lot straight away. A Brief Course in Mediumship. Okay. Then there's Development of Mediumship by Terrestrial Magnetism, quite specific. Also, Mediumship and its Development, Ghostland, or Researches into the Mysteries of Occultism, and Startling Facts in Modern Spiritualism. Just hearing those, you get a real sense, don't you? You're stepping into a world where people were actively trying to understand this stuff and to cultivate it, maybe even demonstrate it.
Okay, so let's unpack that first part then. What do these sources suggest about how someone might have, gone about developing physical mediumship back then? Because it seems really clear from some titles, it wasn't always seen as just like a passive gift you were born with. Some people definitely seem to think it could be actively cultivated. Trained, perhaps?
Precisely. Yeah, when you see a title like Plummer's, A Brief Course in Mediumship, that's from 1915, or Bach's Mediumship and its Development from 1893, they frame it like a process, don't they? Something you could potentially learn or undergo some kind of training for. It really implies that within that community there were structured methods, maybe, exercises, practices being taught, all aimed at helping someone become a physical medium. It shifts it, doesn't it? From just innate ability to something you could work towards.
That's where it gets really interesting for me. It's not just passively waiting for spirits. It's this proactive effort.
Right.
Trying to create the right conditions, maybe, or train yourself. And Bach's title, you mentioned mediumship and its development.
Yeah.
It actually adds something more specific, right?
It does, yes. It adds the phrase, how to mesmerize to assist development.
Mesmerize. Okay.
Yeah, and that's a really key piece for understanding the time period. Mesmerism, or sometimes called animal magnetism, it was a huge topic then. Yeah. Widely discussed, pretty controversial too, mind you. But the basic idea involved inducing trance states or heightened suggestibility. So including mesmerism here suggests that some people believed that getting into these altered states, or maybe just creating a particular psychological atmosphere using these techniques, well, that could be helpful. Maybe even necessary for physical mediumship to actually happen. It ties the spiritual claims directly into these psychological and physiological ideas floating around then.
So you've got structured training, like a course, and then methods like mesmerism, which sounds like trying to influence the mind or maybe some kind of energy. Then you throw in Judson's book from 1891, Development of Mediumship by Terrestrial Magnetism. That feels like a whole different angle again.
It really is. And it brings in this fascinating, very 19th century scientific kind of flavor, doesn't it? The idea that external, natural forces, specifically the Earth's magnetic field, could somehow influence or help spiritual phenomena along. It sounds pretty strange to us now, I think.
Yeah, actually.
But back then, electricity, magnetism, all these unseen forces were just being explored. And ideas about mystical energies, vital forces, they were still kind of in the mix. So linking mediumship development to terrestrial magnetism, It suggests a belief that there was some sort of physical energy coming from the earth itself, maybe, and that a potential medium needed to somehow tap into that or align with it or just be sensitive to it.
Right.
It really raises this important question, doesn't it? How varied were their actual ideas about the energy or the conditions needed?
Yeah.
Because you see these different approaches popping up, focusing on internal states, psychological stuff.
Like with mesmerism.
Exactly. And then external physical forces like magnetism and also these structured training programs, sometimes all within the same general movement.
It really highlights just how much, well, experimentation and just theorizing must have been going on. People trying to find any angle, psychological, physical, disciplinary, whatever, to understand and maybe even control this thing they believed was real.
Precisely. It clearly wasn't one single neat theory of how mediumship worked. It looks much more like a collection of overlapping, sometimes quite different ideas being explored all at once.
Okay, so moving on from the how-to, the methods they claimed for development. Let's talk about the what happened, or, what they said happened. Because some of these other titles promise some pretty extraordinary accounts, phenomena. Ghostland and Startling Facts, they definitely grab your attention. They point toward reports of tangible physical events, right?
Absolutely. And what's really fascinating here is how these books frame themselves. Take Emma Harding Britton's Ghostland, or Researches into the Mysteries of Occultism, that's 1876. It literally presents itself as a record of researches, and the fact it's edited by someone like Harding's Britton, who is so central to spiritualism, well, it signals that this book is probably a collection of stories, observations, maybe investigations into phenomena considered occult. And that would almost certainly include accounts of the physical side of mediumship, things like, unexplained raps, tables moving, maybe even materializations. Those are pretty central.
And then N.B. Wolf's Startling Facts in Modern Spiritualism from 1874. I mean, the title doesn't leave much room for interpretation, does it?
Not really. It's designed to be persuasive right from the cover. It implies the book is a compilation of specific examples, demonstrations, cases, things the author clearly thought were compelling evidence, maybe even irrefutable proof of spiritualism's claims at that time. Startling facts, it suggests, reports of things that were dramatic, observable, things intended to, shock readers into believing.
So these titles together, they really suggest that a big focus of the movement then was on demonstrating the reality of spirit communication through physical stuff.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Through things you could supposedly see or hear or maybe even feel.
So we're probably talking about accounts of things like tables tilting on their own or even lifting off the floor, objects flying across rooms.
Could be.
Unexplained noises like rapping sounds or maybe even voices appearing out of thin air.
Those were commonly reported, yes.
Or even the supposed formation of spirit forms, like faces or hands appearing materializations?
Exactly, those kinds of things. While we don't have the specific stories right in front of us from inside these books, the titles, combined with what we know about the spiritualist movement at the time, make it pretty clear these books were published to document, to share, and crucially, to try and validate what they considered really remarkable physical manifestations, things witnessed during séances or, mediumistic experiments. They really represent this concerted effort to catalog and present what believers thought were real, observable events. Events that proved a spirit world existed and could interact with our physical one. They're historical artifacts, basically, showing the kinds of claims that were absolutely central to the public image of physical mediumship back then.
It shows that focus on tangible evidence, doesn't it? That desire to present something physical, something that couldn't just be easily explained away by normal means, and framing it as startling facts or the results of researches.
Yes, exactly. And it really underlines that tension, the tension between the very subjective nature of some spiritual experiences and this deep desire within spiritualism to find objective physical proof, the fact that would finally convince the skeptics.
So, okay, stepping back a bit, what does looking at these old books, mostly just through their titles and the context they give us, what does it mean for you listening today? Why spend time on these historical sources talking about how to develop mediumship and the phenomena they claimed happened way back then?
Well, I think these sources give you a really direct window into the historical context. The context of spiritualism, yes, but specifically the claims around physical mediumship that were so common over a century ago. They show us not just that people believed this stuff was possible, but how they were trying to understand it, how they tried to cultivate it, how they documented it. It really reveals the intellectual and cultural landscape of that time, doesn't it? where ideas like mesmerism, even terrestrial magnetism, were being pulled in to try and explain unseen forces and phenomena.
It gives you a sense of where these ideas came from, the roots of them, and the historical environment where these really powerful physical events were being reported and discussed and documented in ways that, for the people involved, seemed compelling. It's about understanding the history of these beliefs, I suppose, and the different ways people tried to make sense of experiences that just didn't fit with conventional explanations back then.
They show these really earnest attempts, coming from different angles, whether it's a structured course outlining specific practices or a scientific-sounding theory involving natural forces like magnetism, or just collections of accounts, these startling facts, all trying to grasp phenomena that were, let's face it, highly debated then and are still viewed with a lot of skepticism today. It's like a record of a specific time of intense exploration and, well, belief.
And I guess for someone who follows this topic today, who knows about mediumship, it provides that crucial historical background. It shows how the ideas and the practices around physical mediumship maybe evolved, or at least how they were understood during a really foundational period for modern spiritualism.
Exactly that. It's about understanding the origins of many concepts and claims you might still hear discussed in various places today, and seeing the sheer diversity of approaches taken by the people who were really immersed in these beliefs and experiences over 100 years ago. It wasn't uniform at all.
So we've taken a look at what these historical sources, mainly through their titles and what they imply, tell us about the attempted development of physical mediumship and the kinds of physical phenomena they claimed were happening between roughly 1874 and 1915. From, structured courses and using mesmerism to theories about terrestrial magnetism, and these accounts presented as startling facts. It seems pretty clear the late 19th and early 20th centuries were a time of really varied ideas and pretty intense effort in this whole area.
Yes, absolutely. These texts, they cover development methods from, like you say, structured learning to these energetic theories. And they document phenomena presented sometimes as verifiable facts, other times as occult researches. They offer this collection of perspectives on how mediumship, particularly the physical side, was approached and experienced within that specific historical movement. They really are significant historical artifacts. They reflect a particular worldview, a set of assumptions about reality and communication that were prevalent then.
Okay, so as we wrap up this experimental medium podcast for today, here's maybe something for you to think about, building on that diversity we just talked about. The diversity in the approaches to development that we saw just in these few titles, courses, magnetism, mesmerism, given that apparent lack of one single, universally agreed upon method for developing physical mediumship, even among its proponents back then. What might that suggest about their actual level of, say, consistent success? Or maybe it points more towards their ongoing process of just trial and error, trying constantly to make sense of these really elusive phenomena, something to maybe mull over.
Whispers creeping through the haze, shadows dance in twisted ways, echoes hum from worlds unseen. This is where the strange convene. Step into the unknown mind, secrets hidden, twist and bind, truths that linger in between. uncharted realms silently spoke. Step into the unknown mind, secrets hidden, twist and bind, truths that linger in between. Welcome to the spectral stream. Electric sparks and haunted tones. Reality's edge becomes your home. Questions rise like fragile smoke. The uncharted realm silently spoke.